Welcome viewers, this is Media Track episode 44. I'm Devika Sequeira and with me is my colleague Ashley Du Rosario. This is the channel where we track the biggest stories of the past week, and for this week naturally we have to begin with the India-China offensive which took off in the Galwan Valley, which is the highest reaches of the Himalaya. Now, India lost 20 soldiers and another 10 have been returned to India by the Chinese troops which went on the offensive. So now the questions being asked is what is behind China's recent actions? And so let me read a bit from the Hindustan Times to give you a perspective. India has accused China of taking premeditated and planned action that reflected an intent to change the status quo on the LAC, that's the line of actual control on the border. So is China using the world's preoccupation with the COVID-19 crisis to enlarge its position on several border disputes? So the question is now being debated, and one of the reasons being cited for China's advance and actions have ranged from anger over India beefing up on infrastructure along the strategic Darbuk Road and India's decision last August to scrap the Jammu and Kashmir special status and create the Union Territory of Ladakh, which Beijing has indicated had an impact on its territorial claims on the region. So Ashley, you've been reading up on the issue, and today, that is on Friday, that June the 18th, there was a lot of speculation on Twitter and on social media and in some that India may have actually lost
60 square kilometers.
60 square, but it may have actually lost 40 troops, not only 20, and that would be a huge price to pay. The other thing of, which is being debated is, were the Indian troops armed? Were they not armed? If they were armed, why did they not react with the weapons? And why were they so battered? Because that there is now a lot of reporters have spoken to the families of the deceased soldiers who've said that they came back in a very terribly battered condition, the bodies.
Devika, the problem with this particular standoff is there is very little official information coming out from the Indian government of what actually happened.
So that's absolutely true.
Yeah, so we are relying on a lot of unofficial information that is trickling in from, secondary information from the families of the martyrs, which is again second-hand information. It's not coming from official sources.
Yeah.
As you know, the problem with China is not new. It's been there from the 60s. There is a multiple point, sore points in physical boundary between India and China, and Arunachal Pradesh is one place where China is trying to change the
border,
quo,
right?
The LAC,
yeah.
And this is the new one. Now we don't really know what are China's designs, but it seems like that India in this region is isolated, in the sense that Pakistan, Nepal and China seem to be operating in
exactly.
tandem.
It would be in Pakistan's advantage to be on the China side, to stoke things against India. But Ashley, I was just reading this analysis by Rajdeep, and he talks of this being a personal kind of indignity to the Prime Minister, because he had made 9 visits in all, 5 as Prime Minister and 4 as Gujarat Chief Minister, and he'd invested to China, and he invested as much personal equity in nurturing a relationship with the Chinese leadership. Now, the other point he makes is that when Modi was ostracized by the Western world, in the aftermath of the 2002 Gujarat riots. The two countries that embraced him readily were China and Japan. So, you know, this was some kind of misplaced trust in the Chinese and in Chinese President Xi Jinping. So the photo op of the two leaders on a jhulla in Ahmedabad was seen as evidence of their personal bonding. But it doesn't seem to have paid off when it comes to foreign policy, which is a different matter altogether.
Yeah, it's very complicated. You know, foreign policy is one of the most complicated things to understand. But you also have to see it in the context of the changing equations between India and US and Pakistan.
Exactly.
So Pakistan has been, over the last 6-7 years, been moving away from the US, and proportionately India has been moving more closer to the US.
That's true.
And the political leadership,
especially after the pandemic, after the COVID, there's more and more indication of
US-India bonhomie has been happening for quite some time now, which is against the past position that India has taken. India has always taken a more aligned position against the US rather than with the US in the past. But that has changed. That has changed from the time Pakistan, has lost value for the US in terms of, its interest in Afghanistan and that area. So China is also looking at that, and China has also built up a relationship with Pakistan and Iran, for that matter. So it's a very complicated geopolitical situation, which I don't think we are capable of analyzing with the little information we get from Goa, because a lot of this stuff happens in Delhi.
But quite apart from that, I was reading up in the Western media is in a tizzy over this, obviously, because these are the two big powers in the region, and so one of the questions that was being asked is, China and India need each other. So do they need each other? Will India sort of can India afford to abandon Chinese goods? So that there was this very interesting analysis in CNN, and it said that India imports more goods from China than any other country, and over the past decade, India and China have enabled each other's rise as emerging technology powerhouses. So there was another thing I read in Hindustan Times just on Friday, and it talked of how all our cell phones, almost all with the exception of Samsung, are made in China. I mean, I'm talking of the highest selling ones. 70% of the market is dominated by Chinese smartphones. That's Vivo, Oppo, Xiaomi and Realme. All of them have altogether 7, and they create a lot of jobs in India because they are manufactured. They have manufacturing units in this country. So can we afford? I mean, there have been.
Cell phones is just one part of
yes, but you've seen in the past few days, people have been stamping on television sets. They've been stamping on cell phones. The Modi supporters have been very vocal about it and very visually sort of.
Like, for example, we had this very pro-Modi regime television channel, the Republic. Actually doing a boycott China show sponsored by MI.
That's true.
The show was sponsored by MI
and Vivo.
Exactly. So,
yes.
So it's a bit of hypocrisy, I would say.
Absolutely.
Because Chinese goods are entrenched in our day-to-day life in India for almost 2 decades now. It's not only when Modi came in. Even when the UPA was there was a lot of trade happening between China and India because it's convenient for both parties.
Yes,
it's convenient for both parties.
Well, to move away from the international and national perspective, we come back to the coronavirus, which has now virtually on the fringes of the capital Panjim. It is hit Indira Nagar, which is in Shimbel. So, Ashley, what exactly are we looking at with things at this stage now? I'm quite sure we've crossed the 600.
We are in 700.
700 mark. Okay.
Yeah. 705 is our count
Okay.
as of yesterday night.
Okay.
See, Devika, as we've been saying it often, the virus is already in Goa. It's until 4 weeks ago we were saying, okay, it's only the travelers who are coming into Goa that are testing positive. Today it is the Goan in Goa, residing in Goa, who is being infected. So the virus is in Goa and we cannot read it very soon.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the reality all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a virus.
Yeah.
It's something that we cannot see.
Yeah, but actually the other thing is the fear factor. Now, are the fears justified? Are they not justified? And I am here reading from a story from your newspaper, The Goan, and it talks about this person who came in, and he's supposed to be in 14-day home quarantine in Kolva, I think it was. And, the locals were livid because he started moving around from the very first day. So how are the authorities keeping track of people who are coming in, testing positive, and not even staying in quarantine?
The problem, Devika, is that the infrastructure in Goa is incapable of keeping track of people who are positive.
Absolutely.
Leave alone the people who are coming from outside and kept in quarantine.
That is true.
Okay, I think the administration has hinted in the past that there is a responsibility on the part of the citizen as well. To if you are self-quarantined, you stay in self-quarantine.
Yes.
It's next to impossible to kind of police. Okay, there is a level of inefficiency in the administration. There's no doubt about it, and it's not something that has come up only now.
Now, so this is another point I want to make to you, because we live in a colony, and some weeks ago there was this thing that 4 or 5 people were in different homes. They'd come from outside, and in a matter of fact they had. Now, should the government not have the sort of some kind of responsibility in informing people who live in that colony that we have quarantined these people in these? So that
communication is lacking. The proper procedure to be followed. Like, I think the neighborhood should be informed that XYZ is quarantined in his home.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's something that is no one will know anything, and the very purpose of quarantining people would be lost.
Yes, that's true. But it's as if there are two things here. One is the fear of it. And so, there is this stigma involved, and some doctors have complained about it. Of course, Goa's doctors battle stress and stigma is a report in the Navin Times, and I think I saw the same report in your paper. So doctors belonging to the Indian Medical Association highlighted problems they've been facing during the crisis, staff shortage, financial crunch, and they face stigma when they go back to their homes and their colonies or their apartments or whatever from the building. So how does one overcome this?
I think you'll have to play it out. It has to be take it as it comes, they say, because these stigmas are not built overnight. Okay, they are something that is societal.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can't change society in a day.
Yeah.
So I think the doctors will have to face it up front. The same problem that doctors faced when HIV/AIDS was new.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a lot of stigma. Like, doctors refused to treat patients if they had a doubt that patient is showing symptoms of HIV/AIDS.
Yeah.
There were so many cases in Goa itself.
Yeah.
In the early days of HIV/AIDS, where doctors refused to treat patients or to examine patients.
Yeah.
So they will have to live out this uncertainty. doctors as well as people, and I think as the days go by we will get used to it.
No, I think we are already getting rather used to it. We are getting so used to it that we are not taking enough precautions. I'm talking of social distancing. The politicians themselves, you know, they've made the law so selective. They're only targeting the opposition for addressing press conferences. And the very same people who file a complaint are addressing a press conference the next day. It has happened with the chief minister. He has attended so many functions where there is not even, I would say not even 6 inches between him and the person he's garlanding, the people standing around him. So I think it's getting a little too comfortable, and Goa is going to hit the numbers are going to touch 1,000 very soon.
By the end of this month, it's expected to be 1,000 if we go by the same trend.
Absolutely.
Like we have 30 to 40 cases every day. So
Yeah.
we have another 11 days.
Yeah.
You know, so we have another 350 added.
Yeah.
So we will touch 1,000 by the end of this month.
That's true. So to get away now from the bad news of the coronavirus, there were 2 Supreme Court cases, actually, which I thought were extremely significant. One is the Supreme Court asked the Goa Speaker to decide within 4 weeks on a petition the Congress has filed against the 10 people who defected. And the other petition is the one filed by the people against the cutting of trees in the Western Ghats and clearing of huge areas for 3 major projects. So, which are these projects that are coming in?
One is the doubling of the railway line.
Okay.
Another is the 4-laning of that highway.
Oh.
And the third is about a transmission line being brought in from Karnataka.
Okay,
So,
okay.
All these projects were given the nod of the National Wildlife Board in a video conferencing meeting during the lockdown.
Yes. So, who was present in that video conference?
The Minister of Environment and Forests, Prakash Javadekar,
Yeah.
chaired that meeting.
Yeah.
And those various members of the National Wildlife Board.
Yeah.
But it has raised a huge
Hue and cries.
hue and cry from the people who have shown extreme interest in the Western Ghats.
Yeah, obviously.
yeah.
So they want the status quo of the commission to be maintained. That is I don't quite recall the name of the commission, but I think it was the Madhav Gadgil Commission.
Yeah, yeah.
And already the permission has been given to fell 55,000 trees to facilitate the 3 projects in the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary and the Molem National Park. So, it's going to be another long drawn out battle, I'm sure, like all environment cases. But what I find interesting is the case that the Congress has filed. It has actually reached the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has actually taken some sort of, it is also based on the other Congress minister who was suspended by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Wasn't he in Manipur?
Manipur, yeah.
Right. So based on that, the Congress in Goa has taken Girish Chodankar, the Congress president, has filed this case. Now, it has also prompted the MG party to file a case against in the Supreme Court against the 2 people who have defected from the MG. That is
Babu
Asgaonkar and Deepak Pauskar. Well, one is to see where these cases take us. Right now we are in the beginning of the monsoon, and already we've seen a massive amount of rain, 32 inches so far, and a lot of flooding. So we'll put up those pictures for you. There were photographs in the Goan and photographs in the Herald, which show the extent of the thing. Now we are back actually to the flooded streets, and most of them are in Panjim, which is the capital city, and there seems to be no solution. And there's been a lot of anger against Babush Montserrat. So what do you think?
Basically, the anger comes from the fact that when this thing happened last year,
Yeah.
he stormed on the streets of Panjim and kept telling people that we will do the work now, but you have to forgive us this time. Next year this won't happen, and it has repeated this year.
Not only repeated, I would say it's gotten much worse.
Worse.
And
I think although they had the time, they didn't do their homework well. The pre-monsoon homework that Panjim always has to do. Basically because a lot of these low-lying areas that used to hold excessive water. Panjim has this peculiar problem
Yes.
of flooding during the time that the river is on high tide.
Yes.
Okay. So when the river is on high tide, the flow does not happen from Panjim into the river. Because
it comes in the reverse.
It comes back.
It comes
in
back.
the reverse.
It comes through the drains. It comes back into the.
Exactly. And we've physically seen this happen.
Yes.
We've physically seen this happen.
Yeah.
So you need areas, low-lying areas in Panjim, which will hold that excessive water.
Yeah.
For those 6 hours of the high tides.
But all of them are being, all those,
Filled up.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So all those sponges and lungs are literally
the biggest lung that was filled up was this huge development of the EDC Pato Plaza that happened. That was a swamp.
Yes.
So all the excessive water from Altim down and from Panjim used to flow in there. Water takes its own level. Right?
Yes.
So it got the space there and it went there. So now you have these huge buildings, that area filled up.
Yes.
That entire swamp has been filled up. And you have this huge development there.
Yeah.
And there's no space for the water to go there. So the water is coming back into the city.
That's true. So let's, since we are on this question of development, Ashley, I saw a very interesting story in the Goan. It talked of a whole section of hillock in Dona Paula being taken over for some real estate development. I think the story was yours, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So what exactly is going on there?
This, as you know, Devika, Dona Paula is the most expensive piece of real estate in Goa.
Yeah.
It's the #1 real estate in Goa.
Yeah.
So obviously it is the cynosure of real estate shocks.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a lot of people who have invested in land around Dona Paula.
Okay.
So this whole 4-lane that has come from the GMC right up to Dona Paula is nothing but an open invitation for real estate to come and build up.
Yeah.
Now, this particular land that was developed during the lockdown was land that was acquired by the government of Goa in 1993.
Now, I haven't understood one thing. That is that land being developed by the government?
Yes,
is it being developed by private?
No, it is developed by the government.
For what exactly?
For parking.
But a whole building is coming up.
The building is coming up about 100 meters from there, which has no parking at all.
Oh, whose building is it?
Some builder from Bicholim or something.
I see.
But it was originally licensed on an S1.
Okay.
And then suddenly this year, the NGPDA has given it a C1 license, and it is allowed it to go up 8 floors.
I see. So this building has come up on private property.
Private property.
Okay.
And you have this parking space which is being made up there.
For the building, which will become
it is for the building. It is being shown as it is for the public, but it is obviously for this building.
Oh, that is really a scam. I mean, there's no end to scandals and scams in Goa, and it just goes on and on. Now, looking at another story, Ashley, I was wondering, apart from that, the reopening of the schools has become a matter of concern, and the Chief Minister seems to have no idea himself. And so now he says that online teaching is impractical, won't be compulsory. So what exactly is it talking about? Does he have?
No, I don't think it is being done at that political executive level. I think the board is engaged with it.
Okay.
The various teachers and managements of schools are engaged in deliberations on what to do and stuff like that. So basically, wherever they can do it online, they are doing it online. In fact, many schools have already started teaching online. Okay. The board, the Goa board, is also considering, is also seriously considering reducing the syllabus of standard 10th and standard 12th. Okay, in all the subjects, because obviously they will not get enough time to cover the entire syllabus in this year. So let's see how it plays out.
One interesting point that he makes, which I think can be easily countered. He says that people have been complaining that poor infrastructure of network communication, and he's blaming the people for opposing towers. Now, isn't that ridiculous coming from a chief minister? This has to do with the bad connectivity in Goa. It has nothing to do with the towers. The Goa government has not laid all the cables it needs to lay and all that to improve, and so many IT companies are shutting down. They're saying that we just don't get proper internet in Goa.
Yeah, but if you remember, Devika, in 2008 or 2009 it was, the government of Goa actually signed a huge deal with some private company.
Exactly.
To give that Goa Net, it was.
Yes, GNet.
G-Wave.
It has come up, but it's come up as a private entity.
Exactly.
After all the money we've poured in.
Money that the government has poured in, it has become like a business enterprise, a private business enterprise.
Exactly. So, it goes on and on. I mean, we are constantly being kept on our toes with the way the governments behave. And on that little depressing note, we say bye to you and thank you for watching.